I don't think this is appropriate for me to start off with the peace greeting. I'm going to give the peace greeting to Black Guru, though. Salam alaikum. And a shout out to AC because you guys made me aware of not the outfit ISIS a few borders away from where I live causing trouble, but I don't even know if they exist anymore. But the individual YouTuber ISIS um, that brags about being a trophy wife, who recently had to tell a million viewers that 6 weeks ago she found out that her husband was a danger to their daughters. You know, there are people who will tell you that there are men that can just love a single mom, but that there are also men who choose single moms because they're dangerous to the kids. And one of the reasons why it hit me, that one of the reasons why it is that many women who were single moms, black or not, would start to choose black men was because they know that we are very much so against these sorts of things. We're just desensitized to being stepdads and raising other men's kids and bonding with them. And that likewise, this means that these single moms are safe with us and the kids are safe with us. So that's why you might have single moms of other races that start to prefer black men when they don't have black children. I understand now how this is playing out. The other thing, too, is that it's not lost on me either that I myself was sought after by only single moms after a certain age. And I wondered what it was about me for a while. I noticed a pattern, but I had been told that anytime I noticed a pattern, I was being paranoid, that I wasn't seeing it correctly, that I had a persecution complex. I mean, honestly, my parents at one time thought I had one. I then began to hide observations from them because they really believed that I had one. So that meant that they didn't see these patterns, which meant that these patterns did not exist to the same extent when they were my age. Now, there may be nothing new under the sun, but I had learned from the Old Testament and the New Testament that the frequency of certain phenomena would go up and down over time across generations. Sexual immorality is as old as human beings, but the frequencies of it change not only from place to place, but also from time to time. Desensitization to these things oftentimes precedes their increase. So I knew that while there may have been nothing new under the sun, if the Old Testament was correct, I also understood that frequencies and desensitizations to these things could be new. I was aware of this. I had to be. And as such, I went ahead and I started to hide many things that I observed from them until I was an adult. And truth be told, sometimes I pointed out the same observations to them that they told me to look out for. But it wasn't that bad a problem when they were growing up. I mean, my father, once I told my mom, well, Mom, you're talking about dating, but most of these women want the same few men today. And my dad said, see, he just gets an idea in his head. My dad didn't think I was lying. He knew that I believed it, but he also didn't see this happen when he was coming up. At least he didn't pay much attention to it. And so in his mind, either that wasn't really the case, or there was something about these men that would cause a bunch of women to want them. There was a science to it. To me, the science was they don't want to be by themselves, so they only seek out the same few men. That's the science. It's not. There's nothing innocent about it. It's very childish on their part. But that's because I had to deal with a generation of childish women, no matter how old they got, whereas my dad had to deal with a generation of somewhat spoiled women, but they didn't remain childish their entire lives on average. I mean, the women of my father's and mother's age group didn't grow up and keep teddy bears and little girly panties into their adulthoods. They didn't keep the trinkets of things that were for little children into their adulthood. The women that were even older than me did. Even older than me, but not in my parents' age group. Hell, the women of my age group don't even grow up. I'm approaching 50, and the women of my age group don't grow the fuck. They don't do it. Not completely. They can put on airs if they need to, but for the most part, they don't. Well, ISIS, let me tell you about ISIS. She and her materialism have shown how dangerous materialism is. And Manosphere Hall of Fame has talked about the role that men play in the corruption of many modern day women. Now, I maintain that this role is the role that we men play is not malicious. It is a conditioning, but it is not malicious. Even men that have a malice towards other men are generally lied to about what men are doing, and they have to be deceived. I do not believe that even many of the simps just have the same hatred for other men that women have without a propaganda to base it on. What it is, but nonetheless, what it is that there is still, in fact, this misandry on the part of men at varying levels. And one of the ways that we black fathers have contributed to this bullshit is that when we love our daughters in the wrong way. And I don't mean the way that Isis said her husband loves their daughters. That wrong way to cause them to have to be examined at a hospital. But that the fact remains that we tend to say to our daughters that they're so deserving of a financial security. That's not even in my religion. No man nor woman is outright deserving of any sort of financial security. None are. At the end of the day, it boils down to the fact that neither man nor woman is immune to it. God can visit poverty he can visit it upon anyone he chooses, and most human beings get it. Most men, most women, across nationalities, across religious groups. But if you are black and heterosexual and male in the West, you have a high chance of having to go through it at some point. And if you are Muslim on top of that, a serious practicing Muslim on top of being black, heterosexual, and male, you are slated for it. You are targeted for it. It's likely to happen. If you follow the Old Testament, it's likely to happen. And then when your daughters are born and they're babies, you're looking at them and you love them, and I don't blame you, but you think that the way forward for them is to tell them what all they deserve instead of saying to them that they have to go within reason with financial concerns. And that she may feel materialistic while she's assessing men, but the more materialistic she is in her assessment of men, the longer she'll have to wait and the less of a treatment she may get. And that's a tough choice to make, but she'll have to make it. No soul that lives long enough on earth is exempt from having to make tough choices. It doesn't happen. It's built in, it's baked in the cake that comes with living on this planet. The only ones that get exempt from that are the ones who live so short a lifespan that they don't live long enough to make choices at all. And even then, whatever it is that takes them out is usually very painful. That's what happens. So who are we to sit up and look at these daughters just because we love them and then tell them things that God never promised? Isis may not have had this from her dad because she said that she was conceived in a struggle snuggle, a violation. But someone told her, now we as men can still counteract that BS by telling our daughters a very balanced view of finances and mate selection. We'll let them know you get to determine how materialistic you will be, but the more materialistic you will be, the less you will get of everything else you want in a man. Trust me, there will be some sort of hell to pay. You get to determine how you're going to balance it out. But you must be smart and you must be wise. And there's no guarantee that you will never come across poverty no matter who you pick. That's what it's going to take. I hope to God that this message gets around. That's why I'm not making this on Buy Me a Coffee and putting it behind a paywall or a subscription. And shouts out to my 2 new subscribers from today. I'm putting this one here on YouTube. It's free for all. I don't know how truthful Isis is about her husband. I'm not sure. Maybe she's telling the truth. Maybe she's making it up. How the hell would I know? But she said early on in the marriage, while she's sitting up here touting herself as a trophy wife and an example for other women to follow, of how to get not only a man that loves them, but a successful providing man that loves them. Look what it got her. Because one thing I do feel like is that that man had the impression that he owns her. And he did. She sold herself to a higher bidder. I need a place to stay. That man said, if you're going to live with me, it's going to be as a wife, not as a girlfriend. That sounds pretty morally principled. But when she married him in the first few months of the marriage, she said that he struggle snuggled her. In other words, he didn't take no for an answer. Well, when you marry somebody, that's not a right you have to give them no as an answer just because you feel like it. Now, I may find out in the Sharia that there's a double standard with that and that husbands have a right to say no, but wives don't. I may find that out. I don't know. Right now, I'm not aware of such a double standard. I would understand if there was one. But until I find that out, I'm not going to assume that there is that. My assumption will be that the husband and the wife actually owe each other sex on demand, short of an illness or an emergency or impossibility. I will assume that that's the case. I don't tell my wife no. But you know what? No, I don't take it as an answer. That's not a valid answer. Bend over or lay on your back or you pick your position. That's enough right there. Now, I'm not saying I'd be rude and crude and would not care anything about her. But what I'm saying is that no is not a valid answer. Not in our religion and according to the laws of this land. Now, it works out fine because we both know this and we operate accordingly. So there's no need for violence and force. Plus, that's not actually my recourse. I don't beat women with my fist. I beat women with other women if they need it. But you know what? Her husband lived in a place where that's illegal. To struggle snuggle your own wife is illegal, but also to have another wife is illegal. And you don't want to go to divorce court as a sole provider. So when that happens, and then you get taken over the cleaners and stripped of as much as the law will allow you to be stripped of because you were the sole provider in a marriage and responsible, then people look at you like you should have chosen better. But the point is that there was no other better choice to make. ISIS represents a limit. I told you that West Anisha functions as a sexual labor union. She and Shira 7, though they're not identical, do function as a limit. Do not pass me up in quality, ladies. Demand this much and offer this little. Do not offer a better deal to these men, ladies. This way we can all get it. Failing to understand that what it really means is a bunch of women are going to be single by themselves and still poor, and cat ladies owning roses but paying all their own bills and struggling to do so because they won't even have the option of a 50-50. While demanding an economy that in turn demands 50-50, they will not have that as an option because they wouldn't tolerate it for any length of time. We can tell our daughters, those of us who had daughters before we became Red Pill aware, we can tell our daughters what it really is to counteract that. There's no guarantee because remember, Minnie F. Baby, whose real name I found on Facebook and have since forgotten, but Minnie F. Baby, who sat across from Big Bank on the Big Facts podcast and said that they make men they don't like do all the work, and that she didn't really like her ex-husband, and that she left him because he lost his job, and that it was his job to have a bag because she had them 3 kids, and no, she wasn't going to treat men equally. And yeah, if she really needed a guy she was feeling, she'd just get a side dude on the side. Well, that's redundant, but while still having a husband to provide. And no, the side dude wasn't going to have to provide the same as the provider husband. She sat up with all these nasty confessions. She pretty much undermined the value of my collection of confessions on Buy Me a Coffee. No, let me rephrase that. She didn't undermine them because some of these other confessions are pretty serious. They're like Keystone confessions. Like Danielle Cazo's confession. Yeah, Danielle Cazo had a serious confession. It's a Keystone one. It's confession number 10 if you subscribe to Buy Me a Coffee. Here's the kicker with that. Danielle Cazo erased her post, but I still got it on Buy Me a Coffee. That's one of the reasons I put them up there. Some of the confessions are from Minnie F. Baby on her Facebook. Yeah, it's a trip, isn't it? But Minnie F. Baby's confessions, let me say that they have matched. And I'm still going to try to store them so that when she erases them and tries to become a cleaned up and reformed woman like I told you all before, I'm going to ruin that for her. I'm going to make sure she don't get to find nobody unless that man is already our enemy. Or unless that man is like an ex-porn actor or something. You know, somebody the women don't want. Now, why would I be petty? Why would I be bitter? Because there's an ocean of men that really don't deserve that, but they've been lied to and convinced that there's nothing better. That's the real deal. But Minnie F. Baby, boy, she was on to something. She sat up there and said a bunch of things that would tell you that she is to be bought and sold. And what does she have to do with ISIS? Well, see, like I said, they all function as this litmus test. Don't be better than me. Don't offer better than me. Don't be fair and make me a bad deal or make it obvious how bad a deal I am on the market. By comparison and contrast, make sure that we are the best deal on the market. That's what they do. And whether she's telling the truth about this husband or not, the point is that ISIS sold herself, but then has the nerve to demand the rights of a free woman. She sold herself into being owned by whoever bought her and then had the nerve to demand that she be treated like she still owns herself. No, bitch, you sold yourself. You don't own yourself anymore. And the charges are very serious. If that man actually did this to the kids, that man deserves capital punishment. But it needs to be proven first before any punishment is meted out at all, even if the state's going to be more lenient than what it needs to be. The fact remains that one of the things we do know is that she was bought and sold. Not only did she sell herself, but she sold her children's safety. For a place to stay. Because the man that she was living with before didn't really bond with her son. You know what? It ain't really that man's job. Should he have been nice to your son? Yeah, but you said it. He was tolerating your son. But the primary bond he had was with you. Well, bitch, ain't that what you want? The primary bond in the house in which I grew up was between my parents. Now, they did love my brother and me a whole lot, but they made us know that the primary bond in that house was between each other. That way, my brother and I would never seek to try to play them against each other, and we just knew not to do that. That's one thing we do. Do not try to play one of them against each other. That ain't going to work. In today's black households, the mamas are sitting up there trying to tell every stepdad that the primary bond is between her and them kids. So you got to share her with the children, but she ain't going to share you with another woman. Fuck out of here. And if you don't accept that deal, she's like, well, you ain't the one for me then. And if you do accept it, she can't respect you, so you still ain't the one for her. So they create a catch-22 for themselves. But getting back to what I said in the very beginning, there are men who seek out single moms because they are a danger to them kids. So they look for them. And what she's saying is that this man conceived his own victims. Uh-oh. This is actually a very potent lesson for single moms to understand. Once you become one, you got a chance if it's you being a widow. You got a shot. But if you just a single mom, the men are going to know that you just a single mom, and they're going to prey on that. And if you are a widow, the men that are dangerous to kids and seek you out exactly because of that are still going to seek you out. They're not going to say, well, she's a widow, so she's morally superior to the single mom, so let me leave her be and her kids. No, I'm not going to do that to them. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, well, she's still looking for a stepdad for them kids. As a matter of fact, their dad is dead. That's even better. And that's if it ain't your fault. You're a widow. So how much more so when you become a single mom and then you out here demanding that men don't have ties to other children so that they can bond to yours? While you tell that man that he doesn't have the primary bond in that household. That any bonds he forms are secondary. But he's supposed to protect and provide. What I'm saying is that when you're a single mom and you go out there looking for childless men, one, you ain't gonna respect the men that take that deal. Minnie F. Baby said that too. And she ain't the first one to say it. But by the same token, the man who would accept a deal like that, you would not respect. But the man that would seek out a deal like that has his own reasons. Black men generally ain't into that sort of thing, being dangerous to little kids. And I realize that's why a lot of single moms of other races start looking at us like, oh, you know what? A black man will be a stepdad and he's not a danger to them kids. And I don't blame the single moms for looking for men that aren't dangerous to the kids. I don't fault them for that. I only fault them because they start picking men they wouldn't have picked if they didn't have kids. And I'm like, you nasty bitch. You know that's me. But you got to keep in mind that any man that goes looking for women with kids are doing so either because he cannot have kids, there are some men like that exist, or it is because he's looking for victims. Now, there's some guys that do profile single moms, but they don't try to meet the kids because they ain't trying to be dangerous to the kids, but they're looking for that cheap and easy trim. I don't commend it. But I will tell you this, that those men that ain't trying to meet your kids are probably going to be the best ones. And all they want you for is a pump and dump. Yes, your value goes down, and that's the end of it. After all, a man's value goes down because he's short or because of the money that he can never earn, even if these things are not his fault. A plethora of things beyond men's control become reasons that, yes, you will value them less. You got control over your vaginas and your wombs. You got sole control for the most part. And so therefore, you're going to have to accept that when you bear another man's kids, you lose value to the men whose kids you did not bear. And that's the end of it. And if you drive away the man whose kids you did bear, now you have lessened your value to every man. Period. And you're not going to be sought out for the same treatment. And that's what ISIS has to learn. And that's what Minnie F. Baby is going to have to learn. And that's what all of them are going to have to learn. Stop trying to bring your kids by one man to another man to raise. Cut that mess out. You don't want to be single while you're a single mom? Get them kids to dad. Stop playing with them kids' safety. And some of y'all want to say, well, accountability commentary is just a misogynist and he hates black women. ISIS's daughters, as far as we know, are black. And accountability commentary is outraged by the charges that she has brought, the allegations she has brought against her ex-husband. If they're true, accountable commentary is angry at that man if he did that. He set up and said that man needs the upper room if he actually did it. That's not a man that hates black women for being black and female. He's still outraged if the daughters are victims of such an outrageous crime. That's a man that has a clear grudge based on voluntary behaviors and choices. That's clear cut and plain as day. So I don't want to hear about him just, though I think he's hypervigilant, I don't want to hear about him just hating black women because they're black and they're women. Because if that were the case, he'd hate black girls no matter their age. From birth, he would hate them. From conception, actually, he would hate them. And he wouldn't care what happens to them. If that was really the case, he would have said that he hopes ISIS's husband actually did do these things and gets away with it. That would be the case if he was, I mean, that's what he would say if he really was just Plain flat out a misogynist. But yeah, that's a double standard. I'm saying this as a man who has kids by women to whom I ain't married. I'm saying this as that man. If my current wife right now makes me single again, and what I've said to you means that I never find someone again, it's still true. I don't ask for that to be the case, but I understand that if it becomes the case, I still spoke the truth. You lose value partially because you try to bring your children by one man to another man, and you don't have the decency to tell the children, listen, you can stay with your dad. I needed his help to raise you anyway. It's okay for you to live with him. There's a lady here, Saudi lady. Her sons, she has rights to see them and visit them and all that, but they live with the dad. I think one's grown now and maybe living on his own. I don't know. Now, she looks relatively young. She can find another man, kind of. She hadn't yet. One of the things that's going on right now is that there are men that will consider her, and they would consider talking to her, marrying her, discussing that with her. But they're like, look, what you ain't going to do is tell me I can't marry another wife. You ain't going to tell me that. And she's losing opportunities. I mean, she's sitting up talking like she ain't a single mom. And I can't find nobody for her. No, and she doesn't have her sons in her custody, and she doesn't need a stepdad to come in and take care of them. But the fact that she's been married before means that there are men that will marry her. But what they're going to say is, this is what's going to happen. Maybe I don't have to make as much money. I don't have to be as tall. And you ain't going to tell me I can't marry a second wife. Matter of fact, generally speaking, the men that are willing to consider her are already married. That's it. Can you imagine that? That's all there is for her. And she's not a bad person or a bad woman as far as I know. She just wants too much for what she is. She could find a husband that would love her and respect her and treat her well, but she would have to understand that some things she's not going to be able to demand out that man before she was ever married the first time, let alone before she became a mom. Now, there's some widows here that don't have kids. They generally can remarry a bit more easily. You're living in a situation in which these ladies are coming to you with all kinds of entitlement. And they ain't even single moms per se. You know what they are. I ain't got to tell you. They just baby mamas. I'm sorry. They're not ex-wives or widows. No, they just baby mamas. And got the nerve to sit up and say, you need to make a bag to take care of me and my 3 kids. Bitch, send them to their dad. And if that dad, as a single dad, finds him another wife, so damn what? Because he's not considered manly if he puts the responsibility of them kids on the new wife. She'll leave anyway, even if she likes him. And you know it. Most of the time, you just don't want to see the dads happy, even though you don't want them no more. And we as fathers of daughters need to understand that we can counteract this. There's no guarantee. Many if baby has a dad that taught her better, she still said what she said. Isis apparently didn't have one in her life because her biological dad just struggled, snuggled mom, and that's how she came about. So she didn't have that. I don't remember what Shira 7's situation is, and I don't feel a guck. She's been lying to these women anyway. I don't particularly know it, and I don't care. But what I do know is that we can counteract it, though we can never guarantee that it's going to work, we can counteract it by telling these daughters the truth when they're young. And then the next thing is that if you don't have any kids right now in the West, don't have them in the West. Now, at some point soon, I'm going to have to go on Buy Me a Coffee, and I'm going to have to record and upload ways to really fight this gender war, ways that men can fight in a way that would drive women insane. I didn't want to do that. As a Muslim, I did not want to, but I realized it may be necessary. So it's going to have to come up soon. I regret it, but it'll have to. There'll be one way for the Muslims to do it and another way for non-Muslims to do it. But yeah, you got to know, gentlemen, that mostly what I wanted to tell you is that those of us who have daughters are going to have to tell them the truth. That they're going to have to make some tough decisions, that God is not walking around making her perfect enough to deserve a rich man, and God ain't walking around making no man perfect enough or guaranteeing any man or woman immunity from poverty. He's not doing that. He's just not, God's not doing that. And that no matter how good our daughters are, they'll have to settle not for the man overall, but they will have to settle for certain things. Just like the man's going to have to settle for certain things in them. They're going to have to tolerate some shortcomings, just like the man's going to have to tolerate in them. That God is not making anybody, any son or any daughter, perfect and deserving of perfection in the other one. Nobody is allowed to be that so that they could demand it in exchange, and nobody is allowed to demand it in exchange and get it. No one gets to be that, and no one gets to get that in someone else. And that includes financially. That's something that we can counteract. No guarantees, but we can counteract it this way at the very least. And this goes for nieces and baby sisters too. This way, when they get taught by the likes of ISIS and Shira 7 what they deserve and what they don't owe in exchange for what they deserve, there will at least be a message when they are young in their heads that says, well, in actuality, it will be a give and take. And even if you don't believe in financial 50-50, you are going to earn your keep. And that's what a good man. I hope that this message helps. Thank you for listening. As always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Black Out, Assalamu Alaikum, and Black heterosexual and non-select male power because they don't like it. Black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.